Hi guys, this is Drew Brashler with DBB Audio. Today I am so excited. I'm here with the Behringer Wing, which is the brand new audio console the Behringer just added to their digital mixer lineup. Now, this console I'm so excited about. It brings us 48 total channels. Now, all of those channels can either be mono, stereo, or this thing called mid-side, which I'm going to explain in a different video. But the makeup of those 48 stereo channels means that we can actually process 96 mono inputs, mono sources on this console, which is incredible. So let's go ahead and dive in and check out what this thing actually has to offer for us. Now, the first thing that we want to go and talk about are the inputs. Now, there's 40 main inputs, and let's go dive into that. So we can see here that on the left side of the console, we have this fader bank section of 12 faders, and we have a 1 through 12, 13 through 24, 25 through 36, and 37 through 40. Now, if we look up at the screen here, we have 37 through 40 listed here. If we go and tap on one of these sections, we can see all of the adjustments that we can make in this section. So we have a low cut, high cut, a tilt EQ. You can actually change this out for a sound maximizer, kind of like the sound maximizer sound, as well as an all-pass filter. And then we also have delay. Now, the trim and balance is pretty neat. You can trim up or down. This is also the analog gain. And then we also have this thing called balance. So if you have a stereo input that maybe on that XLR, one of the wires is not working, you can actually make that up by using this balance knob. Or if you have two microphones in front of a source and one's a little bit louder than the other, you can make that up with this balance knob. Now, going back on to the rest of the sections here, with the main 40 channels, we have all of those things I just mentioned: invert, low cut, high cut, tilt, delay. We have a gate section, an EQ section, a compressor section, a pre-fader insert point, and a post-fader insert point. The next thing that we have are 8 auxiliary channels. Now, these 8 channels are also mono, stereo, or mid-side, depending on which source you select. And these are limited processing, which means that we can invert, but we don't have our high cut, low cut, tilt, or delay like we have on our main channels. We do not have a gate. We do have our EQ, but no compressor. We do have one pre-fader insert point and no post-fader insert point. Now, let's move over to the output side of the console. So we can see that we have 16 mix buses. Now, these 16 mix buses on the X32 were all mono. So if you wanted to have a stereo mix bus, you'd have to use 2 channels, so 1 and 2. The Wing actually makes all 16 of these stereo mix buses. Now, additionally, we can go into our main section, and we have our mains 1 through 4. These are 4 main mix buses that are also stereo. And then if we tab over here using this little arrow 4 over, we can get to our matrix section, which is matrix 1 through 8. And these are also stereo. So we actually have 28 stereo sends on this console. That is the 16 stereo mix buses, the 4 stereo main buses, and the 8 stereo matrices. Now, additionally, if we head over to the DCAs, we actually have 16 DCAs available to us. So when we hit the DCA button, we see 1 through 8, then we can tab over to get our 9 through 12, and tab over one more time to get 9 through 16, which is great. Additionally, we have our 24 faders on this console. Now, they are broken up into 3 sections. We have our left, which is going to be 12 faders. We have our center, which is going to be 8 faders. And we have our right, which is going to be 4 faders. The phenomenal thing that Behringer has done with the Wing, all of these layers that we can see here with these buttons. So we have on our center section, we have our DCA, main matrix, aux in, bus master, user 1, and user 2. And all of these can be customized on each individual page. Additionally, if we go over to our left fader section, we have our 1 through 12, 13 through 24, so on and so forth. We can also adjust what is programmed into these layers. So, for instance, on my 13 through 24 layer, I could have my kick channel followed by the drums DCA, followed by the reverb send for my snare, followed by the snare drum, followed by whatever you want. So everything is customizable. And one really neat feature on this console is the user section. So we have two user sections, user 1 and user 2, and you can configure all three fader sections to respond to either user 1 or user 2 or be completely independent of each other. I have all three of them linked. So if I hit main matrix over on the right, DCAs on the center, channels on the left, and then I go and hit user 1 on any of these, it's going to link all of them to my user 1 page. Now my user 1 page allows me to lay out all the channels that I'd like, and additionally I can do another whole set of channels on user 2. So there's a lot of complexity that Behringer has built into this that you can use if you want to, or you can just continue to use the console the way it's made with your channels on the left fader bank, your mains and DCAs, aux-ins, and bus masters in the center, and then your mains and DCAs and inputs and aux-ins and bus masters and user 1s and user 2s. There's a lot of complexity on this board that you can do if you want to. Now, one thing to note about the right fader bank is there is an inputs button on this, which allows us to tab through all of our inputs. And this is a completely independent control from the left and center fader banks. So you could, in essence, have a A2 right next to you, and they could go through and turn on phantom power or turn off phantom power or set gains on all of the inputs as you are doing whatever you need to on the left and center side of the console, which is super exciting. Moving up to the upper portion of our console, we get to our control surface. So this is a very nice touch-sensitive screen, and so we can go in and touch any of the things in here to navigate however we want on this console. We can even adjust EQs with touch, and then there are 6 touch-sensitive rotary knobs below the screen. And those controls correspond to whatever you're adjusting, and they're all labeled right here above each knob. Additionally, there's a last knob that's right here on the right-hand side of the LCD screen. And if we go into a channel that maybe has a knob like this on our effects section, I can tap on something that I want to adjust and then use this to go up or down. Additionally, I can go into a vocal delay and we can see that this is my tap button. So I can actually change the tap tempo using this button, or I can tap and change it using the rotary knob. The next section that we have is our channel processing section. There is a small LCD screen here. This is not touch sensitive, but each of these 6 knobs are touch sensitive knobs. And additionally, we have a couple other knobs here as well. So you can do all of your channel processing adjusting either on the screen or on the right-hand side where we have our channel processing. We have this big section of custom controls here, which we can correspond to anything that we want. We can actually set these by pressing the view and configuring those, and that will be an updated video later. But you can see that we can go to, say, an effect page on any of these, or we could even mute things, and that's how I have this set up. Additionally, we can control our DAW by pressing DAW and controlling a remote DAW that's connected via the USB card on the console, which brings me to the next portion of this console, which is amazing. There is a USB 2 card on the back of the console, which can connect into any computer with a DAW, say Reaper, Pro Tools, Logic, any of those things, and it can do 48 channels in and out to your DAW. So you can use that for a multi-track recording or even a virtual sound check. But additionally, there is the expansion card on the back of this console. Now, Behringer happened to make a Wing Live card, which is similar to the X32X Live card, but this has 2 dual SD cards. So dual SD cards, which means that each SD card can control 32 input and output channels on each card. And what Behringer did is they made it so that you could link both card slots and actually do a total of 64 mono channels input or output via the expansion card on 2 SD card slots, which is incredible. Now, the amount of I/O that's on this console is crazy. If we add up all of the inputs and output sources that this console has via AES-50, local, aux inputs, Stage Connect, which is a new thing from Behringer, which is amazing, and all the virtual connections via the cards, there's almost 400 inputs and outputs that are available on this console. Now, to keep all of those things straight, Behringer has changed their terminology for an input to become a source. So an input on the back of the console is now called a source. And the reason for that is because we want to assign a source to a channel. Because there's so much complexity to this console, it can't just be a single channel with a single input. It has to be a source to a channel. So I will have more videos coming up on that later, but the really neat thing is if we go into our routing, we can make any of our sources either mono, stereo, or mid-side. Now that means that when I assign this source to a channel, it is also going to configure that channel as a mono, a stereo, or a mid-side automatically. Without us doing any fancy routing, it just does it. So with my kick drum, that would be a mono, but my overheads that we can see on 7 and 8, those are going to be stereo, so I have them set up as stereo. Additionally, on this screen, we have a mute button and some polarity reverse on that as well. Now, Behringer has also released a Wing Copilot app, which this is incredible because this is for a tablet, and if you have an A2 that's helping you plug in all of your inputs up on the stage into the stage boxes, you can just hand them a tablet connected into the Wi-Fi that you have with your console, and then as they're plugging things in, they can be naming the sources on the stage, and then those will start populating on your screen at the Behringer Wing, and then you can then assign those sources to the channels. So this is really handy because you can just give this to your A2 and let them plug in all the things and label them as they're going into the console, and then you can just do your routing at the front of house. Another very cool feature that Behringer has added to the Wing is the ability to have a main input and an auxiliary or an alternate input on each channel. So for instance, my vocalist on Danny, I'm going to go to his page, and we can see that it's coming in on Vocal Danny, which is just his main channel. But I actually have a backup microphone sitting up on stage for his mic. Just in case there's some RF issues with his microphone, we can then switch to an alternative mic. And we can actually do that by going into our channel input section and just assigning, right here, we can see backup vocal 1 and alternate. And so by just going between the main and the alternate, I'm actually changing the source of this channel. So if we're sitting on main and all of a sudden there's an RF issue and stagehand brings out a microphone to him, well, I can just hit this button to alt and then it is just working, which is a very cool feature that they have added. You can additionally use the alt input for virtual sound check and do a very quick jump between our stage inputs and our virtual sound check. Now, as far as audio quality goes, the Behringer Wing uses a 40-bit floating point processing on all of the audio, which means it's going to be very, very good sounding. Additionally, we can select between 48 kilohertz sample rate and 44.1 kilohertz sample rate. We can actually do that by going to Setup and over to Audio. We can set our clock rate right here. We can also set it to be an internal sync, AES-50, or expansion card, depending on where you have your main sync coming from. Thank you so much for watching this video, just a quick overview of the Behringer Wing. I am going to have a whole bunch more videos about the Wing coming out here very shortly in a level 100, a level 200, and a level 300, basically going from basic things, more advanced, and then advanced subjects with the Behringer Wing. Now, if you haven't already, go over to my blog at dbbaudio.com, as there's a whole bunch of resources and blog posts about the different Behringer products that are available on there. And if you haven't, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, because then you will be notified right when I post a brand new video on a Behringer product like the Behringer Wing. So thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.